losses, microclimates that are created, loss of employment, equipment, seed, hydrogeological complications, also communication systems, EMS systems, 911, television, cellular service. All of those things will have infrastructure costs that would be greatly impacted by the wind project. And nobody's thinking about that when they're just thinking about the dollars that are being waved in front of them, which, by the way, are your own tax dollars. So you're being assaulted with your own tax dollars. And the only people who are really profiting is like the gentleman who was speaking here before, and I don't know if you have the same problem we have in Cat County. Lots of people sat on our town boards with actual conflicts of interest. Them or their family members getting extreme numbers of turbines. So in my case, in our county, we had people getting between 11 and 15 turbines, and yet they sat on the board that was deciding, whether or not the wind project was coming. So you have to always understand people's motivations, and when it's financial, you really have to look hard at the real numbers. So I can leave this for you gentlemen.
Great, thank you.
Yep.
Sharon Brewer, followed by Nadine Layfield, I believe.
Yes.
Speaking for Sharon Brewer, I'm her husband. In fairness, I did make a statement this afternoon. I do have a separate statement to make, and I'll go at the end of the list of folks have their turn, but you can put me in the
If it's
file.
different from what was said
Correct.
earlier, then
Different
that's
statement.
fine. It's going to be limited to 3 minutes.
Okay.
So we'll put you at the end.
Okay, thank you.
Nadine Layfield.
Okay. The wind project, I'm not against it, but the thing that I have noticed is that the people that have the land with the windmills on them, they are, they make the money. But the people that are surrounding within a certain number of feet have some of the same impacts, the flickering and the noise and the things. And so I think that the money should be spread out, so the people, I don't think they would mind the impact as badly if they receive some compensation for it. And I say that partly because I have rented some places, and I have noticed if there's odors and different things happen, or leaks and pipes, that the tenants are very forgiving, if that's the right word, if you cut the rent for a while until the problem is solved. And I think the people getting a tax break isn't as noticeable, because usually the taxes go up after a while anyway. But if you're getting a check periodically, then you don't notice the pain as much. Somebody is thinking about you, and it makes a big difference.
Thank you. Next is Elaine Brown, followed by Kim Brown.
I appreciate the opportunity to talk. I've been studying windmills for a long time and gone to different meetings in different places, at schools and such, and at our town meetings, and talked to people who have had the windmills on their property and or near their properties, and some people it seems to bother, and some people it doesn't. I guess it's about like anything. My understanding from some is it's like some people say, well, I don't mind the noise. Well, if you've ever been next to your refrigerator for a really long time and your refrigerator has a little humming sound, it doesn't seem to bother you. And sometimes they go on for a while and then they go off. They go on, but you'll be by it, it doesn't seem to bother, but when it goes off for a little while, it's sort of like, it's a lot like the white noise that you might have in some factories. They'll have a white noise going on so that they can have a meeting and you can hear even though the factory's running in the background. And it doesn't seem to be any kind of a problem, but then after the meeting's over and then they turn the white noise off, you feel better. I've talked to people who've had windmills down in the Jasper area, and some people have had equilibrium problems. I had a very good friend who is my age, who has since now passed away, that swore that the reason she got sick and she left her property in the Howard area was because of the windmills. And there's been a lot of talk. I've researched online articles and articles and articles of a lot of illnesses, not just here, but over in Great Britain. They've had a lot of these. The first time I saw these was in Scotland back in the mid-'80s. I saw them, I thought, oh my gosh. I thought they looked hideous, and now they've been finding over there in Great Britain too that they're not what they're cracked up to be. They're not green. They're not really green. So my opinion is it's a sad state of affairs. Originally it was to be able to, because they were supposedly green, but if you look at all of the factors and study them, they're not green. So.
Next is Tim Brown, followed by Don Lewis.
My point is fairly simple, and it's this: if this is a real business that makes real money, why do we have to constantly subsidize it? The federal government gives wind turbine companies tens of billions of dollars. New York State government gives it hundreds of millions of dollars, and now we, the local people, have to subsidize their existence? I don't get subsidized for my tax property. I'm taxed at 100%. If this is real, tax them 100%.
Don Lewis, followed by Denise Willard.
Lewis is Lewis. I'm not from Fremont, but one of the ladies spoke up and said, the people that didn't sign with this should be benefited from that. Well, I'm in the 8-point win, and we've been through all this so far. And these guys are so dishonest. I have a windmill that sets probably 1,200 feet from my property line, and they done the shadow on this windmill 400 feet further away, and give me this. And I went to the 8-wind people about this and asked them if they're going to redo the shadow flicker testing. They said, no, it's close enough within 400 feet. But the 400 feet would have made it closer to my son's property where he lives. And also, I was one of the first persons they come to because of my elevation of my farm. And because I truly believe this, they put 8 of these windmills surrounding my property. And as far as the lady speaking about paying somebody off because they're going to get the flicker or something, I really disagree with that. I could have had 2 or 3 of them things on my property, and I just don't agree with this windmill company. Thank you.
Thank you. Denise Willard, and then Jim Kogel.
Hi, I'm Denise Willard, Willard, and I am from Cat County. We are going through this right now where they're proposing 117 600-foot turbines in 5 towns in our area. The constant change of the different locations of turbines, because as they say, the poor farmer, well, our poor farmer in our area is getting 11 turbines and $6.6 million. The people across the road from me were supposed to get 2, at least that's what Invenergy told them, but they never put it on paper. The gentleman that lives across the road was supposed to get 1. Invenergy made him all these promises, but never put it on paper. It was just lies. So finally, the farmers that we get our hay from told them, and they are the real freedom, poor farmers. They don't have cell phones, they don't have a computer, they don't, they make sure they have enough money to plant their crops. They charge us $2 a bale for hay for our horses. These are my neighbors. Those are the good neighbors, not the guy that's going to put a 600-foot turbine next to your property line. And I want to remind the Steuben County IDA that you gave a tax break to Howard Wind LLC in the amount of $478,000. 2 jobs.
Wow.
They brought you 2 jobs.
They promised 5.
Promised 5, but brought you 2. So I just wanted to remind you of that. Because all the wind companies make lots and lots of promises, but they never come through.
You're in a hard climb.
I've watched some of you.
One thing I'd like to add briefly to what Ms. Schroeder mentioned, as far as other topics that remain unaddressed and probably not even noticed, implications. What about medevac service? You're going to be hard pressed to find a medevac helicopter that will land anywhere in the vicinity of a 600-foot turbine. Also, emergency response issues. I've not heard a word about that. At the beginning of this project in Canasteel a year ago, I tried to contact Tim Marshall. I've not yet gotten the courtesy of a response to my concerns from him. That, to me, the silence that I hear is deafening when I ask a direct question. I'll make this as short as sweet as I can. I have a cover letter here, some copies of which will go to the IDA board members. I'm going to read part of that, and I'm also going to forward some other information to them. We appear before you today to voice our grave concerns about the development of wind energy in our county. The negatives associated with the development of wind farms are numerous, far outweigh the benefits. Briefly stated, they include but are not limited to visual impacts, noise, numerous health concerns, impacts on environment, including birds, wildlife, and plant life, reliability issues, engineering soundness, and economic impacts. As your role in this process is primarily an economic one, I will address this area specifically. It's common knowledge that without government subsidies and support, wind energy would not exist. It has been well established that as a standalone entity, wind will never be profitable, nor would it exist, and as such, must be permanently dependent on subsidies, including production tax credit, NYSERDA payments, and of course pilot payments. SCIDA has in the past made some highly successful investments in local enterprises such as Corning Inc. and Alstom, businesses which have returned to their communities countless times over the agency's original investment. Wind energy and its developers do not and will not ever meet these criteria as a wise investment of taxpayer-provided monies, and will never generate a return commensurate with their public investment. In hearing the developers' cries of job creation, you must consider that the much-touted construction jobs will be temporary, and then by organized labor's own admission, only a small number of these positions will be held by local residents. As to permanent positions, they will be minimal. In the case of Invenergy's Canasteel project, the developer states, quote, between 5 to 7 full-time equivalent positions. That's equivalent. That to me implies part-time jobs, not necessarily high-paying, no benefits, et cetera, et cetera. I can get that at McDonald's. In fact, I can get better at McDonald's.
15 an hour.
When considering the payments promised to local municipalities and school districts, consider what is the source of these funds? Again, substantially from the taxpayers funneled through the developers' pockets minus their profit. As a reliable, affordable source of green energy, it doesn't take an engineering degree to see that it is not reliable, it is not green, and it is, in fact, is more expensive to produce than other forms of power. A major question only marginally addressed by developers arises regarding the hidden cost of a wind installation, both during development, operation, and dismantling. The dismantling is one I've heard very, very little about, but it's a biggie for down the road. Are there really adequate funds to cover damage done during construction, restoration of the infrastructure and environment? In the case of the Canasteel project, including funds promised by the developer for dismantling, it is estimated that an additional several $million will be needed for just the dismantling process. Supplied by whom? Who then will cover any unforeseen costs? Again, ultimately, the taxpayers. There's one individual in Canisteo who has done a very thorough analysis of this, and he opened eyes at a recent board meeting.
Jim, that's 5 minutes plus already, so.
Okay.
In addition to the.
Can we go last guy?
So if you could wrap it up, that'd be great.
Okay,
I don't think
Who else have you got to speak?
Anyone else that wants to sign up, this is the last sign up that we have.
Going free.
I get 2 minutes? Okay.
If he's last, let him speak.
Well, complying with the 3 minute, I mean, if the gentleman gives me the time, I'll take it if he says. Okay, all right.
We yield.
Far more importantly, consider the other economic impacts of wind development on the county. The negatives noted above all lead to one end, the decline in quality of life in our county. Contrary to developers' arguments, it's well established that nearby wind turbines ultimately force the decline in property values and hence the local tax base, as has been said.
Absolutely.
Think about this. I would challenge each and every one of the board members who is going to research this project with this question. Would you ever want to live in close proximity to a 600-foot tall rotating piece of machinery for the rest of your life?
Probably not.
Even more so, speaking of the quality of life here in the county, would you, as an outsider, consider moving here for a challenging position, say at Corning Inc., or as a retiree in search of pristine beauty, and consider a property offered to you if surrounded by 120 or more towers, as proposed in the Canisteo project? This underscores a more ominous concern to me. My wife and I are among several county residents I am familiar with, approaching our retirement years, having worked hard to create a comfortable retirement nest we can remain in forever. Thanks to these projects, we will be trapped. Spending our remaining years enduring the misery of wind farms as neighbors and having great difficulty selling our property at anything near fair market value when the time inevitably comes. Because of such considerations, you must remember, again addressing the board members, the negative effects of wind development will not just be immediate, but will create a downward spiral for years to come. I'll cut it there. We've prepared some other materials. The bottom line is, summarized, we strongly discourage the IDA's financial support of these developments, not just the Barron project, but the others proposed for Steuben County, and implore you to seek other means of investment in the future of our county. Thank you.
Yes. Why don't
Is there anyone else who chooses to sign up to speak?
I have a question. Have you addressed how much money the IDA is actually getting from this project? Like how much money the IDA gets from this?
The IDA does charge an administrative fee. That fee, as per our standard fee policy, is 1% of the total construction value. That revenue is used to support 100% of our operations and also goes back into reinvestment into the community. So we get no public tax dollars to support the IDA's operations.
You're not for profit, you're a public entity.
We don't get it if it's the.
So that is per our fee policy. So, if we'll be around for questions afterwards. So I want to respect everybody's time.
Did you say the amount? I didn't.
It was it's $304,000, is that correct? It's 1% you said of the
1%
total
of the total project value.
construction value?
And you've all had an opportunity to speak. We've had written submissions that will be made part of the record that will be presented to the board. And unless somebody that hasn't spoken wants to fill the forum, I think we've heard the comments. We'll get them, back to the board before certainly any final consideration.
When are you voting on this, and is the public allowed to attend that vote?
Well, we won't know until the Article 10 process is done. Legally, this can't even be considered by the board until that is done, which they anticipate to be September timeframe. So we just don't know yet. We will publish a notice of the hearing, and the public is certainly welcome to attend the meeting. It's not a public hearing, I'll tell you that in advance. But you're certainly welcome to attend the meeting. We just don't know yet when it's going to be presented. But that will be published when that hearing will be held.
And those dates are on our website, as are all the agendas for all of the meetings. So you can just go to our website, go to that project, or the agency information, the public documents section, and all of that is there.
I know you're not answering questions,